Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby, where we hope to be informative and entertaining and help you keep your modeling mojo alive. Oh man, Dave. Holidays are taking a toll. We're here for episode 78, and we're probably running on fumes.
Oh man, that is the truth. It was a great Thanksgiving, but boy, it tires you out.
Yeah, I had a good time though. That was a good one.
Yes,
It was a little more subdued than normal, but just everything, other than my appliances breaking, seemed to fall into place.
Well, I got a lot of cooking done, and since we held it at my niece's house, I didn't have any cleaning up to do afterwards. So, that and plenty of good food. So that was happening. That was happy for me.
Well, we're still plowing through the leftovers. You didn't get any, so you had to roast a duck.
Yes, that's right. That is exactly why I did that. Is because we took home. Actually, my niece and her husband were very gracious, and they made sure they had the disposable food containers so everybody could go home with leftovers, but there still weren't a lot of them.
Well, that's good.
We had 2 turkeys and 31 people. And so there weren't a ton of, other than whole kernel corn, there wasn't a lot of leftovers. So, yeah, I did roast a duck yesterday. In fact, had duck soup for dinner tonight.
Well, enough about that. What's up in your model sphere, Dave?
Well, as longtime listeners know, I refer to the period between Thanksgiving and the New Year as the dark time because normally I don't get much modeling done. But I'm hoping this year's different. So far, going well. But what I am able to do is modeling adjacent stuff, like checking out new videos on YouTube. Man, the amount of modeling content there is growing, and good quality content. You and I turned out we're watching the same guy's channel. And
yeah.
neither one of it had mentioned it to the other, and we both happened to be watching the guy's stuff nearly the same time. But I've gotten modeling adjacent stuff done. I've watched YouTube. I spent a couple of nights this weekend online with a bunch of other modelers participating in Jim's 72 and 72 build, where a bunch of guys were trying to finish a completed 72nd scale model in 72 hours over the holiday. And so that was a lot of good model sphere adjacent time. So I'm on an up note. I know the things that I'm facing with the holidays, but I am still hopeful that I'm going to get stuff done. How about you?
Well, I participated a little bit in the 72 for 72, and coincidentally, I was working on a 72 scale project at the time, and no hope of getting it done in 72 hours. But, let's not forget that our friends over at the Plastic Posse podcast help put that together and pull that off.
Yes.
So Scott and company, good time, Jim, great idea. Have to look forward to whatever the next one happens to be. But
yeah,
way more going on in my model sphere than that. So this time of year, pretty much, I won't say most households, maybe most households, but typically shortly after Thanksgiving, the Christmas decorations start going up in many households across the United States. So we're right there in the middle of that. My oldest son wouldn't have it any other way. So my job is typically to haul all the crap out, and he puts it all up, and I bring all the boxes back down the basement. So my job's pretty easy these days, which I really, really like. And it all went well, and we got along good. No arguments. He knows where everything goes. In fact, he even has pictures of where it was last year. So
That's
not
organized.
A whole lot of deviation. Yeah, he's pretty organized. So, but anyway, all that stuff is kept in our furnace room in the basement, which is a room that's just adjacent to my workshop area. So my stash is in there as well. So I took it upon myself to, well, first I laid down the law. I said, is everything out of there you want to decorate the house with? Yes. Okay. So everything in there that's Christmas that didn't get put up is leaving this house. It is officially, it is dispositioned to garbage. So we got rid of some stuff, and I got my eye on quite a bit of other things back there too. A lot of other stuff I got out of there too, threw it away. But while I was doing this declutter of the furnace room, trying to get some of that stuff out of there, else you're going to carry it around for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
I took a gander at the PE resin and metal accessories I've accumulated over the last few years, 38 years probably, to be a little more precise.
Yeah.
Took a stroll down memory lane, or more aptly, probably the Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
The Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I like that.
Dave, this stuff is no longer aftermarket. We can't call it that anymore.
What are you going to call it instead?
Laughter market.
Laughter market. Okay.
So I got into some of these boxes, and I found stuff from cottage industries like Mole Valley Miniatures, K&K Castings, Ted Kaufman's Hobby Adventure, and some ancient MB models, resin and white metal stuff.
Well, see, now I remember the MB stuff. That's about the only one of those that you named that I actually remember.
Yeah, well, I'll shoot some photos of this stuff and put that on the dojo for a laugh or two or three. It makes you wonder, though, just what percentage of all that stuff do you think ever gets built or got built?
I think now aftermarket. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what the aftermarket and resin use rate is, but I thought that I read somewhere that under 50% of plastic model kits purchased actually get built.
I bet the aftermarket's even lower rate than that.
Oh, I would bet you're right.
Oh, that's my model sphere, man. It's just man, I got a lot of stuff.
Well, you've got many years ahead of you, and whatever you don't end up ultimately using, Evan will get.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You know what I ought to do with this? Just box it all up and send it north of the border.
Well, not all of it. Maybe there has to be a couple of things that you came across that you went, yeah, I could really use that, or I could still.
Yes, there's a lot of that, but the ones I mentioned, with the exception of maybe some of the MB model stuff, because some of that stuff's pretty good. Yeah,
even to this day.
But like this Ted Kaufman's Hobby Adventure, it was for adding all the missing road wheels to Tamiya's old Panther A kit.
Ooh, wow.
So that's pretty old.
That's ancient.
And I'll summarize this other stuff at some point on the dojo. But man, yeah. I'm going to send it to Evan. I'm going to put his address as the to and return to address.
There you go.
On it, so it just never comes back.
No, better yet. You need to address it to his fiance and put wedding present. box it up with the fancy
gold bow and white paper.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Ship it to her in that box. Then she opens it up. It's all.
And she slaps Evan.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that would, Evan, I apologize. I really do. So, Mike, I'm sure that you have a modeling fluid. What modeling fluid do you have?
I'm putting down a little of the Russell's Reserve 10-year. Again, that's what we had last time.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it's a 1-for-1 water chaser, man. I am holidayed out.
Yeah.
And this is only 4-day weekend. I mean, Christmas is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? I'm actually similarly situated. I'm drinking a virgin highball.
It's like a Coke.
I'm drinking a Coke. And the reason is not to make myself sound like I've just been on a 4-day bender, but there's plenty of liquid refreshment over the last 4 days, celebrating with family and friends, and plenty of eating go along with it. And I'm feeling mighty sluggish. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a day and just going to have a virgin highball. And
I took yesterday off. If we weren't doing this, I'd probably take tonight off, but I didn't want to disappoint anybody.
That's right. But so I'm pretty sure I know how the virgin highball is going to work out at the end, but we'll see.
You might be disappointed. Well, we've got a nice little crop of listener mail, so we should probably just get on into that.
Sounds good.
Thomas Clark from the Huntsville Plastic Modeler Society, Huntsville, Alabama, I'm pretty sure.
I've been to their show many times.
I don't think I've ever been down there. I've been to Huntsville, Alabama. In fact, we were down there last January, but I've not been to that show.
I have not been in a number of years, but I really enjoy that show. And the drive down to Huntsville and back is just at the edge of what is doable for a 1-day contest. I mean, you're talking just about 4 hours.
Yep.
And so you can get up early, leave, get there when the contest opens or slightly after, do all day, contest ends, drive back, and get home at a reasonable hour.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I used to day trip to Nashville from here, which is probably not much different for you going to Huntsville.
Right.
Maybe a little less, but not quite. Well, anyway, back to Tom's email. He says he was really struck by how often our topics parallel what's being discussed at their club in Huntsville, like the rise of gunpla modelers and other sci-fi subjects, and the role 3D printing's playing in the hobby. And he was surprised that the Gundam stuff and the sci-fi figures were a major part of their contest this year. They were overshadowed by the big three, certainly armor, aircraft, and autos, but and likewise at the Murfreesboro show there in Middle Tennessee club, same stuff. Well, he said there was a gunpla group from Knoxville that came and really swamped that figure category of the stuff. So he's thinking the club's going to have to make some accommodations.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think they're doing that. I think the writing's on the wall. If you want to get new people in,
I think that I think if you're a smart club, you are being, first of all, you should be welcoming to anybody in this hobby. We welcome people who have an interest in modeling and doing what we do, even if their subjects are different. I don't think this rise in either sci-fi or gunpla is temporary. I think it is new it is new and here to stay. And I think you'll also see more of the Warhammer and figure gaming guys coming in, guys and gals coming in. And I think the reason a lot of the stuff we talk about here on episodes is stuff that your local club is discussing is because really all we're talking about is the trends we see in the hobby overall. And I suspect that those conversations are mirrored all across the country in clubs because those are the things that we're all noticing now.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how new the Gundam is. I think what's new is the current wave and exposure it's getting. I think that would probably be a more fair way to put it. And it's, at a minimum, I think you've got all the years that this has been at the crest of the wave in Japan to catch up with in North America. So, it's here to stay it's here to stay, period. Right. Yeah.
and I think it will be a growing part of the hobby, and a growing part, if you're a smart club that wants to grow, You want to not only be welcoming to these people, you need to be looking for them. You need to be searching them out, because a lot of times they're not necessarily in the same space that you might normally encounter a modeler.
Right.
A lot of times they're not at the hobby shop, they're at the gaming shop, or, they've got
their own shop.
Yes.
Maybe.
And their own interest groups. And you need to, again, if you're smart and you want your club to grow, which you should, then you need to reach out to these folks.
Now, his other subject he brought up was 3D print, and he's talked about this a lot in their club, and they've watched it shift from a novelty to a means of master creation to a means of production. And he was surprised at Wonderfest in Louisville last year that he saw multiple kits, figures, spaceships, whatever, for sale that had been solely produced on a printer, and how affordable they were compared to a more organic mastered resin kit that's cast short run or whatever.
Right.
And that's an interesting point.
Well, one of the reasons I think that price point wise, they're more reasonable than like a resin that's been mastered for a small batch run is, once you've gotten all the CAD done, you can produce an infinite number of them at the only additional cost is the amount of material that the printer uses to print that kit. Yeah. So unlike, a short run master where the guy has the guy or gal builds the master, then starts casting off of it. And then after so many casts, they've got to go do a new master.
And your molds wear out.
Yep.
And the mold's an expense you don't have with this.
Exactly.
There's pros and cons either way. Vargas out on the West Coast, it does all the 35th scale obscurities, the tanks and things, and the Civil War guns. Talking to him I didn't get to talk to him last Nationals, but I talked to him at Las Vegas. We tried to get him on, but he couldn't get away from his table because it was just so popular.
Because, I was going to say, he was moving hotcakes. It was he's got a small fleet of printers. Yes.
And with the small consumer ones, you can do that without a whole lot of investment. Our TV rubber is not cheap. 15, 20 pounds of that, and you've paid for one of these little consumer printers.
Yep.
Easily. So,
yep.
Yeah, I get it. I think we're going to see more of it. In fact, he just released that Matilda, that Mark I Matilda. I think we're going to both end up with that kit.
Oh, that's one of those, it's so ugly you have to love it.
I know. That that thing probably threw mud everywhere with no mud guards.
No mud guards, yeah.
Well, he hopes to see us at either Wonderfest, MMCL in the coming year, or even maybe San Marcos. And he also closes that in 2023 will be their club's 50th anniversary, chartered in 1973. The contest date hasn't been fixed yet, but hopes we could drop by when they do pick one.
The only thing I'd ask you to do is look at when Cincinnati is holding their contest in October and try and avoid the same weekend as Cincinnati.
Yeah, well, that's cross regions, so that's probably highly possible that could happen.
Yes, it has happened before.
Probably why we don't make it to Huntsville very much.
Exactly. That has happened.
Cincinnati's a heck of a
lot closer.
Dalton Lott, our young teenage friend down in Georgia. I think we answered this already. He was looking for a show in his area, and then AtlantaCon's coming up. He just was. Well, it wasn't this email. He messaged us, and I told him I sent him the link to the Atlanta Club's website, which they've started to populate with that information, but don't have a lot on there yet. I think that show is probably going to be. Well, I'm not even going to venture a guess, but keep an eye out, Dalton. Dalton, you should go to that one if you can. That'd be a good show.
And is that have the Atlanta Figure Show with it, or is that a separate show?
That's a separate show, I think, and there's an Amps Atlanta show as well.
Yes, you definitely, Dalton. If you have any interest at all, go to the Atlanta Figure Show. You'll be amazed.
Go to all of them. That'd be 3 shows in Atlanta you could go to.
There you go.
We need to look into those a little more. See if we can put up some more information.
You and I have been messaging each other and talking about how we need to sit down with a calendar and do some planning, because I'm here to tell you 2023 is going to be on top of us before we know. And we got a lot of things we'd like to hit. So we're going to have to sit down with that calendar, and you and I are going to have to talk.
We should do that, Dave. Tim Holland. Tim's a member of Southern Maryland Scale Modelers, and he runs the Green Shirt Modeler blog. I have to check that out. Yep. I haven't checked that out yet.
Yep.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check it out then. He's plugging PAXCon 2023.
Yep.
Yeah, we know some guys.
We know a couple of people that might be there.
That's right. We talked about 1/72 multi-engine because somebody brought that up in the last time's listener mail.
Right.
Well, his theory on the 72nd scale multi-engine is that he thinks the lion's share of these kits are older-ish kits, and there's plenty of higher quality and currently single engine stuff out there that's getting the focus for the competitions.
I think that that's true, although there's a lot of good 72nd scale multi-engine that's been that's been produced in the last 15 years. So the Airfix B25, the new Airfix Mosquito, there's ICM's new KI21. I just think that the reason that you don't see as many of the multi-engines built is simple matters of time. I mean, if you're a modeler like me, it takes long enough to build a single engine aircraft model in 72nd scale. And I don't know that Mosquito, which is twin engine, but it's small twin engine, I don't know that it really took any more time to build than a single engine 72nd scale. But I think the idea that it would is there.
Yes.
I think it's as much the idea as anything else.
He's got a few things to say about color. He's got a photo stash he took during his deployment in the 90s of gray U.S. Navy aircraft. All were painted the same FS color, but none of them were the same shade.
Exactly.
And from the photography standpoint, the color shifts depending on sun and cloud cover, time of day, whatever. That's understandable. But in the same ambient light, the FS color is measured against a chromatograph probably.
Yeah.
And it should be, in theory, should have been a specific color, but you know how this works. This was from our wheel spin question. Is there, what was it?
Is there a correct color? And the answer is no.
So still at no. And here's a couple more reasons why.
Yep.
Scale and size, which is another wheel question. He thinks there's a sweet spot between X and Y where the subject does not look like a toy. X being too small, Y being too big. And a true master modeler can pull off a model not looking like a toy. But he thinks those folks are rare.
I do think that there is a sweet spot, but I think the sweet spot is pretty large. The sweet spot is, depending on what you're modeling, keep in mind, between 32nd scale and 1/144th. Now, obviously, with ships, you've got 700 and 1/350th, but those are specialized items of really, really massive prototypes. So scale goes a little differently there. But I think there is a sweet spot. I think he is right about that. I just think the sweet spot is fairly large.
Could be. Bob Bear, voice of Bob. Now, Bob was also in the 72 and 72 group build.
Yes. Yep.
Every time I was on there, Bob was there.
Yes, he was.
So Bob wants to know when Evan's going to join us as the third. He does a good job, and he can relate to the younger modelers, those under 45. Well, Evan does do a good job. He relates to the older modelers, too, clearly.
Yeah, he really, yeah. He likes to stick knives in their back when they're not looking.
Well, our format is always open to modification, I guess, and we'll hopefully have Evan on here a bit more.
Oh yeah,
and because we got other folks we like to get through. We need to get Jim back on, but
Yes.
Evan for sure. Evan
Yep.
will be back, so don't you worry, Bob. We'll get plenty of Evan. Adam Coleman. Now he's from Texas. I don't remember where. Adam, we met Adam in Las Vegas. Remember?
Yep.
And he was up this way for some reason. I never gathered why, or I missed it in the email. He came up and did the Louisville, Cincinnati, Lexington, and the Bowling Green was his apex of his travel for some reason. So I don't know if he's got somebody going to Western Kentucky, maybe. I don't know. Adam, why were you up here? Let us know. But anyway, he was looking for hobby shops, so we put him on a Scale Reproductions in Louisville, our home base.
Yep.
And he stopped in there, says it's a wonderful place, and spent some money and talked models. Imagine that.
It is hard to get out of Scale Reproductions without spending some money.
That's right. Well, Adam, glad you stopped in, and hope you told him we sent you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gary Sousmacat's back, and Gary's from Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and he says he always learns something from Dr. Strangebrush.
Me too. Oh, speaking of which, I've got to shoot Dr. Strangebrush an email after the last episode.
And he says we need to capture sales commissions because he always ends up purchasing stuff after the episode.
Dr. Strangebrush is nice enough to come on and help us out. We are more than happy to direct business his way. He's a good guy.
So keep spending your money.
That's right.
Danny Saint Laurent from Quebec City. Same vein, man. After listening to the last couple episodes, oh man, do I have to buy myself a lot of Christmas gifts. Seems to be working, Dave.
Yep.
Rob Perlman, Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, Rob's asking if we've ever heard of Glenn Hoover Models.
Glenn Hoover Models.
Now, I have, and I've mentioned this kind of in passing on the show before. Glenn Hoover is another retired systems engineer, I think, in the space industry. And he puts out these build breakdowns, these build guides for 30-second scale aircraft and some sci-fi.
Yes, you're right. I think I have seen those before. I just didn't associate the name.
I've got his 30-second scale Revell Arado 196 build book.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got his Kitty Hawk Kingfisher book.
Geez, I wonder why.
And I highly recommend them, the books, if you have the kits.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you happen to have the kits. Those kits are what they are, but the books look like a big help because with Glenn's books, what he does is he rewrites the assembly instructions. Basically, he takes the instructions and like any aftermarket instructions, like Edward,
right.
And he integrates that all in together. So it's like, do this here, do that there, et cetera, and you just work your way through everything and takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
But that'd be handy to have and well worth it.
Yep. And they're not very expensive. So if you've got either of those kits or get on, I don't know his website offhand. We'll try to put it in the show notes, but it's Glenn Hoover Models. And he's got several of these. I mean, I don't know, 12, 20. He's got quite a few of these.
I'm sure if you just Google Glenn Hoover Models, it's going to pop up.
I think it probably will. Eric Kinser from Menlo Park, California. Oh, he's got a topic for the wheel. So thank you, Eric, and other listeners. Please, if you've got any topics for the wheel, we're going to do that again come first of the year. Send them in. Maybe we'll even do it with old Jim.
Yep, that'd be a good idea.
We'll keep this under the cuff until then, but it's a good one. So thank you very much. I'm not going to share it with you, Dave, because
that's fine.
It won't be spontaneous.
That's right. We want spontaneity.
Well, from the email side of things, that's all I got. So, Dave, what is Facebook Messenger been looking like?
Busy. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who's a member of the dojo for messaging us anytime we have accidentally let through somebody who is spamming the site. We've got 1,800 people in the group now, and we get, it's slowed down a little, but we get 10, 12 requests to join a day. And, we try to filter for the ones that are obvious bot.
I don't know if they're bots or if they're just there's professional spammers.
Yeah. Mike actually caught one the other day before they got in, but a number of people have messengered us as soon as it's become obvious that one of these folks has gotten through and they start posting. And so we have to go root them out and, delete the post and then ban the identity. And who knows, they probably respawn and try again. But thank you for all of you folks who have helped us monitor. We actually have 4 people moderating the dojo: Mike, myself, Evan, and Ian. And even with 4 people doing it, we need the help of you all out there. So I really appreciate the folks who reached out and let us know whenever that happened.
Well, it's usually the guy's got 8,000 friends and belongs to 487 groups, and you click on the groups and none of them are modeling related.
That's right. That's the there are, sometimes they can slip through. Sometimes they're sophisticated, but a lot of times they're just working. They're just doing it en masse, and those, thank gosh, are easier to spot.
There's probably an easier way. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, if any of you got any tips for helping us do that, please. We're not experts in this, so reach out and give us your tip for spotting these people or keeping them out in the first place.
I was saying, you got anything else?
Yeah, had a nice conversation with Steve Schaefer, and he just reached out to tell us that he had placed an order with Model Paint Solutions and was very, very happy with the ease of purchase and how quickly and how pain-free it was. So that's another one for Dr. Strangebrush. We've told you John is really a good guy, and he really has no problem interacting with folks. He's a natural teacher, so he loves answering questions. If you've got a question, particularly and related to something you've bought from him or you're thinking of buying, reach out. He'll be happy to help. And then finally, a listener by the name of Zahn Sullenberger. I have no idea where Zahn is located. Zahn, if you hear me, please message me and let me know your city and state. We just like to know the geography. But Zahn reached out to ask me a question. I'd said several times that the finest model kit I have ever built has been the Tamiya 72nd Scale Zero. And Zahn reached out with a really good question that I should have probably pointed out. There's more than one Tamiya 72nd Scale Zero. They actually make the A6M2, both A6M3s, and the A6M5. And he was asking, well, when you say that, which one do you mean? And they're all based on the same basic molds. The parts swap out based on what a particular model is being done, but it's all the same base mold. So I've built a Model 21 and a Model 52. They are both, it's the exact same quality, the exact same build level. So any of the Tamiya Zeros, any of the 72nd scale Tamiya Zeros, finest kit I've ever modeled, and I have zero doubt I'll be building more of them.
I'm sure you got more of them.
I'm looking over my shoulder now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, which sounds like a lot. But did I forward you Barrick Numeric's email?
I think so.
He sent me a picture of his 109.
Yeah.
to prove that he wasn't lying to me about how many unbuilt 109 kits he has. And 7 Tamiya Zeros or 8 Tamiya Zeros are nothing compared to that.
Pales, I'm sure.
Yes, we'll have Barry on in the future, and we'll discuss that.
Well, until then, please drop us a line or two at plasticmodelmojo@gmail.com or send us a message via Facebook Messenger system, and you'll get me or Dave, depending on the topic. But usually Dave takes the first pass at those. And thanks for all listener mail.
This is the point in the show where I ask you, if you have not done so already, when you are done listening to this podcast, would you please go and rate it on whatever podcast app you use? Give us 5 stars. We'd appreciate it, and it helps us grow the podcast by exposing more people to it. Also, if you've got a modeling friend out there that doesn't listen to the podcast, please recommend us to them. A personal recommendation is the best way for us to get new listeners, and we continue to get new listeners. So please do that for us. We'd appreciate it.
And while you're doing that, you want to check out all the other podcasts out in the model sphere, and you can do that by going to www.modelpodcasts.com. That's modelpodcastsplural.com. It was a consortium website set up with the help of Stuart Clark at the Scale Model Podcast up in Canada. And what Stu did was set up a simple web page that's got banner links to all the other websites or all the other podcasts who are participating in this consortium with us of mutual cross promotion. So check it out. Podcasts aren't the only thing out there. There's a lot of blog and YouTube content out there. And we've got several friends in this area. You're going to want to check out Jim Bates, the Scale Canadian TV. He's got a nice little YouTube channel talking about a lot of esoteric topics in scale modeling and a little humor along the way. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Absolutely. That's the enjoyment of Jim is not it is the modeling. I mean, we're all interested in that, but Jim's rather unique take, a unique humorous take on his personal modeling experience is what's entertaining.
Also going to check out the Inch Eye guy, Jeff Groves. His 72nd scale blog is going to really tickle your fancy if you're into that scale. Chris Wallace, a model airplane maker. He's got a great blog and YouTube channel, a lot of great builds, a lot of good content, show coverage, lots of cool stuff. Chris is a great modeler, and his videos keep getting better and better.
Yes, the last one went viral. I mean, he had like 60,000 views on it. So, and it's great, especially if you're going to paint an overall black scheme, go watch his YouTube video on it.
And Stephen Lee, Sprue Pie with Frets. Going to want to check out his blog, and he's got a lot of short and long form content on there, and he's a pretty prolific modeler as well. In fact, he just finished up some things that are pretty nice.
Yes. And
check it out, Sprue Pie with Frets.
Finally, if you are not a member of your national IPMS organization, IPMS UK, IPMS USA, IPMS Canada, IPMS Israel, et cetera, please consider joining your national organization. They do a lot to promote modeling and promote the hobby, both in your country and overseas. I know that recently at Scale Model World, we had a number of IPMS USA modelers, and at least one of our officers were at Scale Model World, and they spent an hour or an hour and a half with the IPMS UK guys talking about what we can do to cross promote. And so these guys are giving up time out of their lives to time they'd rather be at the bench to run these national organizations. They're all volunteer, and please join your national IPMS national organization.
Well, that's most of the plugs. I got one more plug, Dave.
Oh, sorry.
we got an email. No, sorry. This is in addition to our
Oh,
normal,
in addition, I thought maybe I stepped on you.
Nah, you didn't step on me. I would have screamed.
Okay.
No, we got an email late before the last recording session. We didn't get it in, but it was from our friend Stephen Reed over at the T34 interest group and scale modeling group on Facebook.
Yeah.
One of our early guests. Steve wanted us to announce that the Model Club drought in Southeast Georgia is now over. IPMS Southeast Georgia in the greater Savannah area has commenced. And you want to go to, if you're in that area, if you're in that geography and you're looking for a model club, you're going to want to check it out.
Absolutely.
And so it's always great to hear about a new club. That's a cool area. So I imagine they'll have some success down there.
Yeah, I think they will. And Steve, if you have not reached out to the director of local chapters or your regional coordinator, please do. We can help with locating modelers that may be members of the national organization that you aren't aware of or that aren't aware of your club. So we can help you a little bit with your membership. Please take advantage of those services.
All right, we're done plugging and pitching. Let's have a word from our sponsor, Model Paint Solutions. Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com. All right, Dave, come and make it in Texas.
I cannot wait. I am telling you, after the experiences in Vegas and Omaha, the IPMS USA National Convention has always been the best 4 days of my year, but the post-COVID ones so far have been particularly great. And the last one pre-COVID, Chattanooga, was also awesome. So, it's getting better and better. You got to get to a national convention if you have not been.
Well, Dave, I agree. The two post-COVID national conventions were a whole lot of fun, but it'd been so long since I'd been to one prior to Las Vegas that I can't qualify the front end of that, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh, trust me.
You've been to a couple.
Yeah, a few.
Well, Dave, we are 247 days away from the 2023 IPMS National Convention. So it's going to get kind of close here once the first year rolls around, get through some of this holiday stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be below 200 about the time we clear the end of this year. So
just about in January for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I hope people are taking notes, and there's always the back catalog to go through. But Brandon Jacobs, our Mojovian special agent 003, has come through again. He's quite reliable.
Yeah.
He's got another possibility for Nats attendees.
Okay.
Particularly those headed west on I-10 into San Marcos.
Okay.
Is the Shiner Brewery.
Oh, I like Shiner Bock.
There you go.
I actually have a Shiner in my model room fridge. I actually have a Shiner beer in the fridge. It's Shiner Prickly Pear.
Stop in Shiner, Texas, home of Shiner Beer. Is one of his go-to modeling fluids. It's the oldest brewery in Texas, founded in 1909. They do brewery tours that end in a tasting room. And they have reservations online, but they're not required. They're pretty much on the half hour, starting at about 10:30 a.m. Monday through Saturday and 12:30 p.m. on Sunday, with the last tour at 4:30 p.m. every day. So Shiner Beer, Shiner Bock is the one I'm familiar with. You've got Shiner Prickly Pear. I got a web address I'll send you, Dave.
Okay.
Are we coming in that way? We're heading west. I don't know if we'll be on I-10 or not, but...
I have yet to I've looked at the trip a couple of times, but I have yet to map out exactly what our path is going to be. So we're going to have to, not only do we have to sit down with the calendar and mark out contests for next year, also at least one of us needs to start planning the navigation for the trip to San Marcos.
And we need to do something along the way since we're going so dang far.
Yep.
Well, Brandon, thanks again. And I think we saw a post from him on the dojo. He was in the San Marcos area over the holiday, and he was at some other brew pub or tap room or something.
Oh, yeah, he was. You were right. I remember that now.
So look forward to that. And maybe we'll have a modeling fluid or two with him once we all get to San Marcos.
Absolutely. Maybe there will be some special modeling fluid for our special agents.
Hope so. I don't know if that means they buy it for us or we buy it for them.
No, we probably should bring it to them.
We probably should. So, hopefully his reconnoiter down to San Marcos over the holiday was fruitful, and look forward to the next update, Brandon. Well, Dave, that is the update for Come and Make It to Texas.
All right. Cannot wait.
Up next is the Benchtop Halftime Report, which is brought to us by Tackett Z. Tackett Z, the must-have tools for the model maker. Check out all Ed's got going on at www.tacketz.com. I sent him some info back, a feedback on his little box and holder stand he made for the FlexiFile frames. Haven't heard back from him yet, but hopefully he'll incorporate some of those or look into what's possible, and maybe you'll get one, Dave.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what you're suggesting. And since I got to at least see what he produced before I handed it off to you, I know what his original prototype looks like. I'll be interested to see what your suggestions and what he incorporates and how he incorporates them. So I can't wait for that because I do need something to hold all those sanding frames.
Well, since it is the Benchtop Halftime Report, Dave, what is up on your benchtop?
Modeling.
I know that.
Modeling is occurring. Well, wait a minute.
Where are we at?
Let's not pass this over. It is late November. Thanksgiving has come and gone, and I've still actually gotten some modeling done.
I'm proud of you, Dave.
Thank you. Somebody's got to be.
I think the 72 and 72 might have helped us out a little bit.
I think it did. I even though I was no way I was going to commit to building a 72nd scale model in 72 hours, hanging out with the guys really was quite enjoyable.
We dropped in, told a few rude jokes.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what I do on this podcast. No, the Airfix Kate painted, decaled. I put the gloss top coat on over the weekend. It is now down to pin washing, weathering, flat or satin coating, and she's done. This one will definitely be done by the end of the year, but actually possibly before that. And since I've been hearing the footsteps of March quickly approaching, the fact that I've got to get this Arma P51 built, I've actually been working on it. This kit is, and you have to pay attention. I've said this every time. You have to pay attention to the instructions and really read everything twice. But God, it's been a fun build. I'm enjoying the heck out of it so far, and can't wait to get on with it. Which it will occupy the main spot on my bench just as soon as this Kate is off and up on its legs and in the display case.
Well, good.
So how about your bench? What have you been building?
I've been pretty busy.
I was going to say, I have seen you posting a lot, and I've been very impressed by what you did post. Tell people what you were working on, because I really like what you did and the effects you've gotten.
Buggers up my outline, but we'll figure it out. Let's see. What you're talking about, Dave, is my Imperial Japanese Navy catapult.
Yes.
That goes with my E-16 Paul float plane.
Yep.
Now, the catapult is in paint phase. Where to start? The launch mechanism, it's a sub-assembly. It's painted and weathered. And what I did there was, I primed it black. I came in with what'd I use? Let me back up. The color that it's primarily going to be, were it unweathered and freshly painted, is to me a Curie Arsenal gray,
Right.
which is kind of on the dark side.
Yep.
A little blue, but on the dark side. So I'm undercoating this thing. I've got the black. Then I've come back over it with a fairly overall coat of Tamiya Sky Gray, which is lighter than the Curie Arsenal by quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I've then further cut that with white, Tamiya flat white, and hit the very top edges of some things again. And once I had all that done, I started to do some oil paint work on it and using some dark grungy colors, trying to make this thing kind of dirty, but not rusty and dilapidated. It's a piece of naval equipment. I mean, it's maybe a little rust, but they're going to be trying to take care of it pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's some moving pistons and rails, and the thing was fired by like a blank cannon charge.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of powder and grease and stuff like that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So I've used a lot of like brown tinted grays and some dark rust tones and some browns to kind of shift the gray in places and build up some accumulations in some areas. And I really like the way it came out.
Yep. I really did too. What you've been doing with the oil washes and then going back and picking out with a brush some highlight stuff really made things pop.
I've also got the launch mechanism is painted weathered. It's got the final, well, not the probably last final flat coat on it. It's been flat coated so I can handle it without worrying about it too much. It's going to get rigged. Now it's going to get the entire length of cable that's going to rig the entire catapult is going to be put on the launch mechanism with these two long pieces hanging off either side. Got to get that done. Just get that set aside. So that's up next. I've got the launch trolley's painted and partially weathered. And I have the catapult boom partially painted. Now, I didn't get quite as far as I wanted over the holidays because I had a little negative modeling going on. On the launch trolley, God, what a boneheaded move, man. I was putting it on a block of balsa to give it a handle, right?
Right.
And had some double-sided tape taped onto the end of the balsa wood block.
Right.
So to seat it onto the sticky side of the tape, I put my thumb right on the cross bracing in the middle of the thing. And of course, not only did I break it off in two corners, I broke one of the legs of the cross bracing in the middle of the span.
Oh.
I was like, holy crap. So I spent about, 2 hours realigning that.
Oh.
Letting it set up overnight. Coming back with some Mr. Surfacer 500, scraping all that down with the edge of a hobby knife, getting it blended out, sanding it. And you can't even tell it was broken now. I mean,
but you'd like to have those hours back anyway.
I would like to have those hours back, or the launch trolley would be done.
Yeah.
I mean, it would also be done with the launch mechanism. I would have two sub-assemblies completely finished, waiting to go on the finished model. But no, I had to break something. Well, so yesterday, day before, I started painting the catapult boom.
Mm-hmm.
And folks might remember there's two little foot platforms, two little walkways, two little gangways at the launch end, the start end of the catapult.
Right.
Off either side for the crew to get on the plane and et cetera. And they were really thick. I mean, they're probably like a foot thick in 72nd scale. And in reality, they were stamped sheet metal.
Right.
So I made a jig, it's been over a year ago now, and sanded those things down to nothing. And then to make it look like a formed over edge for the, to give it some structure.
Right.
I had a piece of evergreen 10 thousandths thick by 40 thousandths wide strip styrene along the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of this being a thick piece of plastic now, it's this little thin L-shaped structure, cross section.
Right.
Well, in handling it during painting, I broke a 1/16 of an inch, a few millimeters off the fold over side, the evergreen stuff I'd put on there. It's like, damn it. So I just stopped, cleaned my airbrush, put all that away, cleaned up the brake with some files and glued it. I fixed it and I got it all primed and repainted. It's where am I now? Let me look at it. I got it masked off and airbrushed. I primed it black again. Tamiya sky graded again. So it's where it should have been before I broke it. But again, I would like to have those hours back.
Well, and one important thing you did is walk away. Give yourself a little bit of time before you go back to fix it.
Oh, sure. We've talked about the walk away moments before.
Yep.
And sometimes they just happen. Sometimes you're in the zone. Sometimes you're not.
That's right. The anti-zone.
The anti-zone. Yeah, it's not a good place to be. So, yeah, put the airbrush down.
Walk away.
I think it got snagged in the filter on the back of my airbrush, my spray booth.
Oh. See, I've got a paste booth, so the filter is actually on the
vertical. Yeah.
Yeah, on the ceiling of the...
yeah. Well, my spray booth's been getting hot if I let it run more than 20, 30 minutes, Dave. So I think it might be on borrowed time. And it's like, that thing's like 24 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time for a new spray booth. Maybe I need the big honking paste spray booth.
That's the one I've got. I can highly recommend it. Now, when I bought it, it was expensive for me, but, it was still a fantastic deal. Now
you're a cheapskate, Dave.
Yeah, that's true. And he has raised his prices over the years, as I'm sure he had to. But let's put it this way. I've never seen anything I couldn't work inside that spray booth. It's never failed me. I'm super happy with it. And, if you end up needing a new one, I can recommend theirs.
Yep. So maybe I'll do that. Well, have you got anything else from your bench, Dave? Are we done?
I think we're done with the bench.
All right. Well, let's hear a little word from Chris at Inside the Armor.
Hello, Mojovians. This is Chris from Inside the Armor Publications, and I'm here to tell you all about Models for Ukraine Volume 2. The first volume of Models for Ukraine raised money for humanitarian aid for Ukraine by featuring only Ukrainian manufacturers made by some of the best modelers around the world. Why mess with a good formula? Volume 2 features much of the same. This time, though, all of the articles will be new and feature such great artists as Calvin Tan, Ken Abrams, Sam Dwyer, Rene van der Hart, Vance Lubin, Robert Blocker, and many more. All in all, 23 artists in 11 countries have donated their work for free to what we think is a fantastic modelling book that also happens to raise a lot of money for a good cause. If you'd like to purchase this fantastic book, please head on over to InsideTheArmor.com to get yours today. Also, if you'd like to know more about the model manufacturers of Ukraine, please look up Models from Ukraine podcast to hear the latest interviews with people like ResKit, Wingsy Kits, Armory, and many of the other Ukrainian manufacturers. A special thank you to Mike and Dave. Raise your glass of modelling fluid, and let's get back to the plastic model mojo.
Well, that was nice. It's a specially recorded thing just for us and our listeners. That was really cool.
Were you drunk last time? Because we ran it last time.
No, but isn't that one different?
Yes, it is. He tailored it for us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Don't gaslight me.
I didn't say you're crazy.
All right. So, Mike, it's been a while. What has broken your wallet, sir?
Oh, man. I hope you can keep up.
I'm going to let you go first. You're the big dog.
Well, the printer doesn't count.
Yeah, no, we've touched on the printer. That was a modeling tool. That was an investment.
We'll see. We'll see if I can justify it down the road. So, or not. It's fun to have it and play with it when I want to, whether I do anything on it or not. So it's fun. What broke my wallet? Well, I bought a few kits, Dave.
Yeah.
The most prominent one is Brian at Scale Reproductions finally got the Tacom Scharnhorst turret, which you I
was going to say that broke my wallet, at least temporarily.
Well, it did. I appreciate that. I appreciate the liaison.
Not a problem.
Service there.
Not a problem, my friend.
That's good. And then, that's going to be fun. That's
as you would expect. I opened it up and looked at it, and yeah, I think that's going to be Cool.
Well, in addition to that, I also picked up from some dude who cruised through Facebook, one of the modeling secondhand sites.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember which one. He had all these kits, man. And I picked up an AFE Club SDKFC 232, which is the early 8-wheeled armored car with the antenna frame on it.
Yep.
Like the old Tamiya kit, but it's not the old Tamiya kit. I picked that sucker up for pretty dang good price. And then back in October, because we haven't done this in a while, when I was down in Tennessee at the little small show there down in Greenville from the Appalachian Scale Modelers Association, I picked up a Dragon Premium Edition Tiger 2, the Porsche turret type.
I love the Porsche turret.
And then hold your breath, man. I got an Eastern Express ZIS 42 half track.
Oh, okay. You're going to have to explain this to me. At what point did you look at that and go, yeah, I need to buy this?
Copied a photograph off German eBay of this. It's a ZIS 5 truck that's been modified to be a half track.
Right.
Or it's pretty obscure. I mean, they didn't make many of these things. But I've got a photograph from German eBay, a German snapshot of one of these things with a quad maxim in the bed of it.
Yeah.
So this is where I get into this photo inspiration thing.
Yep.
And I tell you, once I figured out how to convert the Hobby Boss ZIS 5 into the 3-axle ZIS 6
yep.
for my Katusha project, well, guess what's going to happen with this one? And I've already got the truck kit bought.
Right.
I got it from Dr. Strangebrush, thinking I might need 2 for this Katusha project. But I think I'm good. So the other one's gonna get modified to take the half track stuff from this kit. Maybe some 3D printed tracks, because it's got those funky kind of single piece rubber casting over steel cord tracks like the American M3 and M2 half tracks had.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a real simple track. Be a fun one to do on the printer.
Well, and there are several versions of that quad maxim out there, aren't there?
I've got a Plus Models resin one.
Yeah.
You could cabbage one out of the Mini Art Gaz AAA.
Right.
I've got that kit. Yeah, it's just it's so many kits, so little time, Dave. This is just one of those projects that I want to do. Go ahead.
No, I'm enjoying myself.
Well, that's the kits, but that's not the end of the list. Well, there's one more kit, but it's a little further down.
Okay.
I ordered some resin Zimmerit sets from Attack out of Poland.
Okay, I've seen those before.
Yeah, they're really nice. I think they're better than the old Cavalier ones. I mean, they were contemporaries for a while, but I think Cavalier's done and gone.
Yes, my understanding is that Cavalier is gone.
Attack is still kicking, so they're still out there. I got a Zimmerit set for the aforementioned Tiger 2 and for the AFE Club Sturm Tiger that I have in my stash. Now, there's contemporary kits of both of these, but in my opinion, the new stuff are not leagues better than these, especially with a little, aftermarket Zimmerit and a few bobs and bells.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm gonna keep these kits with the intent on building them. So, I could get somebody else makes a Porsche turret Tiger 2 with Zimmerit already on it, and I know Ryfield makes a Sturm Tiger, but I'm not convinced they're that much better that I need to scab these off and get some new ones.
Gotcha.
So I picked these up while I still can. They weren't very expensive. And I tell you, Attack is fast. I think it was 8-9 days from order that these were in my hands.
One of our Polish listeners needs to talk to us about this. The Polish postal system seems to be really, really efficient, because whenever I've ordered from Arma or any of the Polish hobby shops or hobby distributors, man, I am amazed at how quickly the things come.
Well, I imagine our buddy Balky will have something to say about it.
That's right. I'm sure that he will
be pretty rich too.
Yeah.
Well, my other kit I bought was from a from a Ukrainian manufacturer. Dnipro models, named for the river, I guess. Yep. It's a Hungarian Bofors anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't got it yet.
Uh-huh.
And I rolled the dice with this one. Hopefully I get it. I've not even pinged them for an order status just because they're busy.
Sure.
And to backtrack to the last episode, I was talking about, I gave the little review on Inside the Armor's book, Models from Ukraine 2.
Yep.
And Dnipro is not listed among all the.
I told you
not all the modelers on the inside cover.
every time he updates it, he says he gets an email from somebody saying, "Hey, you forgot these guys or those guys."
So I hope, and I have faith I'll eventually get this.
Oh, I'm sure.
But the Hungarian Bofors is a little unique because it's got this square platform kind of bathtub under the gun. Compared to the other Bofors variations.
I was going to ask you what the difference to the Hungarian one was.
That's the primary difference. I'm sure there are others, but don't have a lot of nuanced knowledge about Bofors guns. I've built one in 76 scale actually.
Yeah.
But it wasn't much to that.
Right.
Anyway, this thing is, it's got my interest for a couple reasons. It might be towed by a truck I'd like to scratch build. It might be built straight up. Because of, there was a Hungarian vehicle it was a licensed built Hungarian vehicle. It was a Swedish sold the license to build this in Hungary, called the Nimrod, which, Nimrod, because of some Looney Tunes cartoons, has gone to be a pejorative, but
right.
Nimrod is the great hunter, right?
Right.
So that's what Nimrod really is. And the Nimrod vehicle was a dual purpose tank destroyer anti-aircraft gun. It typically is called an anti-aircraft gun because it's a Bofors, right?
Right.
But that was not the sole purpose. So because it was not the sole purpose for the Nimrod and just the normal ground mount Bofors cannon, they developed, probably copied from the one the Germans made for their 37 millimeter anti-tank gun, Pack 36. That shape charge that they put on the end of the barrel.
Yeah, the little looked kind of like a Piat round.
Sort of, a lot bigger though.
Yes.
And launched with a great big blank, I guess.
Yes.
The Hungarians had one too. So for this gun, 40 millimeter. So interesting. So, the kit looks pretty good. The pictures of the kit look pretty good. We'll see what we get and if we get it. So I hope we do. I'm looking forward to that. That's not it though, Dave. I bought a bunch of consumables, some washes and paints and primer to use on the catapult. And all that came from Burbank House of Hobbies out in Burbank, California. I like dealing with those guys. They're pretty fast.
I've never had any experience.
Their prices are pretty good. So I don't know. If you're inclined, check them out. If you're out there, go see them.
I'll have to put a link in the show notes on that one.
That's it. What do you got? You going to top that?
No, I'm not going to top. You went to a show in Tennessee. I went to Cincy show and ended up with I probably purchased more kits at that show than I've purchased kits.
Yeah, you found a deal.
Yes, there was one of the vendors had a bunch of kits in Ziploc bags where they were unstarted. They were the sprues, the box top to the box, and the instructions and decals.
You don't get the box top
in these Ziploc bags, and he had done that because, believe it or not, he stored his models in filing cabinets.
We've talked about this before,
and
wondered if that was not the case.
So he had a bunch of stuff that he was selling It was good quality kits. They were inexpensive, and if you bought 3, you got 1 free. So I picked up a Fine Molds A7M2 Sam, the successor to the Zero. I bought a Tamiya Bowfighter. I bought another Airfix Kate. And I'm trying, which thank God I did because I needed those decals. And what the heck else was the 4th one? I'm having trouble remembering what the 4th one was. In any event, so I bought those 4 kits. I bought the big find for me up at Cincy was the Arawasi book on the KI-21 that just came out within the last 6 months. It's hard to find in anywhere. Ordering it directly from Arawasi or from the Arawasi blog and all of that, it's really difficult. In fact, I know several people who had tried and been unsuccessful in getting the transaction to process. Well, a dealer in Cincinnati had the book for a good price comparatively, and I snapped it up. I know I'm going to shock you. I bought 2 decal sheets. Just randomly purchased 2 decal sheets just because that's me. And then after I got back from Cincinnati, I got several emails from several different people, all of whom are way too familiar with my vices, telling me that the ICM KI-21 Sally, that the first kit of the first version was out. So I hopped around and looked at the different options to purchase. The best deal, believe it or not, was an eBay seller that I've actually bought from before out of Latvia. And it arrived fairly quickly. I mean, it couldn't have been more than 14, 15 days. And
well, it's certainly inside your build pace.
Oh, God. Yeah, really. Thank you. Carrier pigeons inside my build space. But it is gorgeous. I'm happy to report. I opened it up. I fondled the plastic immensely. It's great, and I definitely want to look at that and get it on the short list to start building. But the one thing I am going to do is I'm not going to build it until somebody comes out with a paint mask set for it, because they don't provide you a paint mask, but they do provide you a paint mask guide for making your own paint mask. And
you got an X-Acto knife.
Yeah. There are 101 windows, 101 separate panes that need to be masked.
It's like Dalmatians.
Yeah, exactly. So I have zero doubt that Edward and all those guys are going to very quickly, because I mean, like I said, ICM has provided them with the mask, with the guide. So all they've got to do is take it and use it to make the actual masks. And as soon as they do, I'll snap it up. And at that point, that KI-21 is moving up very high for when we talk about what our list looks like for next year. I can kind of see that KI-21 getting on it.
Oh, there you go. Multi-engine.
Yep. But that was it. I was pretty much a piker compared to what you did, especially if we count the 3D printer.
That's right. Or we're not.
Which is why we're not counting it.
All right, Dave. Getting the right size base for your model, diorama, or vignette can be difficult and time-consuming. Bases by Bill has the solution with their all-new custom-size display bases. Offering sizes of 4 to 30 inches and any size in between, you choose the dimensions you want and you get the size you need every time. They can also be laser engraved with a unit emblem or custom text of your choice. In addition, shipping is always included within the lower 48 states. Built by modelers for modelers, Bases by Bill has bases and display cases for any type of model and for any size. Visit their website at basesbybill.com to see their new products or to get your own custom-built base or display case quote. Use the code MOJO at checkout to apply a 10% listener discount to your order. That code again is MOJO for 10% off. Bases by Bill for all your model display needs. I just realized something.
What?
I keep forgetting to change that ad. Folks don't get 10% off. They get 15.
Right.
So the checkout code works the way it's supposed to, and I really, really need to change that. I just keep forgetting. I talked to those guys about a week before Thanksgiving, and they assured me that was the case. So sorry, guys. Sorry, Bases by Bill. I got a base idea I need to submit to them.
Yes. Yep. I've actually got a couple that I need to get quotes on.
Well, Dave, our special segment tonight is kind of a different take on our kind of a year-end thing. This is going to drop early December. We've got something else planned for the end of the month. And we got Mr. Husted coming back in the middle of the month. So we're going to forego our typical format of year in review, but we're going to do a little bit of that here. What did we learn and what do we want now for 2022? What has Dave learned, either skill wise or philosophically or whatever?
I've actually learned a lot. I learned that, yes, group builds just aren't for me. I finally
again.
Yes, again, I keep learning that lesson. It's like touching the stove and figuring out it's hot. I can't, except I'm the dumb kid who has to keep doing it again and again. The Mosquito got finished this year, but that was only a year late or 9 months late from when it was supposed to be done. And while I enjoyed it to an extent, I definitely don't like building on a schedule. So I learned that. I learned that if you're going to paint yellow, paint pink under it first. I think Brian, was it Brian that sent that tip in?
Brian Dinklow.
Yes.
From Build Sideways podcast.
There you go. I think he's not the only person that suggested it, but he's the first person I remember suggesting it. And I tried it the other night on the propeller tips of the Arma P51. I painted the tips pink and then went back and painted yellow, and it works. I mean, it's the opacity is great. The color density and the color are really good. I mean, that was completely unexpected to me. And I'm glad he reached out and suggested that. Other things I've learned, my eyes are bigger than my stomach. And I mean that in the modeling sense as well as the just having finished Thanksgiving dinner sense. My goal was to finish 5 models this year. I don't think that I'm going to finish 5. I'm going to come close. I think I'm going to finish 4, barring a last minute miracle. But I think I think I'm getting faster, believe it or not. When you consider all of the other things going on in life and, 2 teenage daughters and all of the stuff that I've got at work and everything else, I think the time that I've actually devoted to modeling, I think I'm slowly getting more efficient. And I think that's a key to becoming not only a better modeler, but a faster modeler. Well, those are the ones that occur to me off the top of my head. So what did you learn this year?
I learned that I'm still not to the level, how to say it, So I took a big hiatus from the hobby because basically, to use a corporate buzzword, a paradigm shift in finishing techniques kind of obsoleted me. Largely because of my rate of completion.
Right.
I mean, just the earth moved under me, literally. I think I've learned that I can do a lot of these things, but I've learned that I need to keep my contest performance in check, or my desire to have a certain contest performance in check.
Yes, that hey, trophy hunting has killed more hobbyists, modelers than I mean, it's killed more modeling mojo than probably just about anything else.
So I've learned to remind myself that I've been there and did that, and I need to keep philosophically. I need to stay in the mindset that I'm going to get better and try to get better, and whatever happens on that front happens, and should never come into the picture when I start a project. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I know exactly what you're saying.
I need to do this for the enjoyment side of it and not the recognition side of it.
Yeah.
And some of that tried to rear its head again at Nats, and I was successful to beat it down. I really came away empty-handed and okay with that. I only had one intro. I had two, but the Gundam was never gonna do anything at nationals anyway. I just got to keep all of that in check, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing and learning a lot of new stuff, and I need to stay in that mindset.
Yep.
I've learned a lot. I've learned that I'm going to have to take the risks to learn a lot of these techniques that that were unfamiliar with me, several years ago.
Yeah.
I've learned to be a little bit bolder with like contrast and things prior to weathering.
Yeah.
And it's I'm finally starting to get it. I'm feeling pretty good about it. So I'm hoping I can keep going down that road and learning new things. And between the podcast and all the interactions with the listeners and stuff, I'm thinking I'm going to be successful in keeping the glory hunting at bay.
Well, I'll tell you what, all the interactions with the listeners have really, it's done the thing that I wanted from this podcast, and that was the continued motivation combined with the accountability to, and nobody is emailing me or DMing me to berate me for my slow building. None of the listeners are doing anything of that, but there's a little bit of self-motivation that knowing that I'm going to need to get on the podcast and tell people what I've done modeling wise in the last 2 weeks, that does help me continue to it adds additional motivation for me making time to get to the bench and get some stuff done. And so if I got nothing else from doing the podcast, that's one of the main things I wanted, and I've really gotten it. And then there were all these other wild side benefits of getting to know people and getting to interact. I've interacted in the last 2 years with more modelers than I've probably interacted with my entire previous 25 years of modeling.
It's possible. I believe it. I probably have as well.
And man, modeling can be a solitary hobby. And guys, if you're listening to us and you're not going to contests or you're not getting online and interacting, you're missing something that adds a great deal of fun to the hobby, but it also, I think, actually adds to your skills, because you never know when you're talking with somebody and you mention something that you're working on, that you want to do, that you want to try, etc. It's just like that pink under yellow. I don't know that I'd have ever picked up that technique if it hadn't been for the fact that I'm now interacting with a whole bunch more modelers across an international group of people. And when we started this, I sure as heck didn't think that any of that was going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you another thing I've learned is I've got this list of future projects in my head.
Yes.
And in painting this catapult for the E16, one thing that's come apparent is, the negative modeling. I hated the breaking stuff and have to repair it.
Yeah.
But it gave me a pause that helped me realize that I did not have a solid plan for the painting process of this thing. The sub-assemblies, the trolley, and the launch mechanism, those were no-brainers, because those were like capsule things that were off to the side.
Right.
But in painting the boom, I've realized that I didn't have a very good plan, and I'm still trying to reformulate that. And I've learned that I'm going to have to get better at this, because I've got these other projects in mind that they're going to require this kind of discipline and kind of parsing out the sequences of how things are going to get painted and masked and progress forward, or they're just going to be a nightmare.
Right. Well, and that goes back to what Ed Baroth was talking about in that system engineering approach, is thinking about the whole thing from beginning to end, not as big chunks, but each individual tiny thing, and how it all fits together, or is going to have to be made to fit together.
For example, I've got the entire boom together, except for like the left side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting here painting this thing, and I'm noticing like I'm getting this nice shadow under the rail on the right side for the launch rail that the trolley rides on.
Right.
Because it's like a C channel. It's overhanging the deck of the catapult. And I'm getting a nice, because it's black primer under there. So I'm getting a nice shadow under there. Well, the left side's not on it. So that side's getting all the highlight color in the same spot that the other thing's in shadow.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, well, that looks great, but it's going to look like shit when I put the other side on it, because they're not going to be the same. So now I got to go back and I'm trying to figure out a way I got to clamp this side on and finish the painting to get rid of those kind of things I didn't think about ahead of time. So I think project planning is something I've learned. I've not learned the planning. I've learned the necessity of the planning through this little project. So,
well, that's the first step.
That's the first step. So, what else have I learned this year? I've learned that, I, like you, building on a schedule. That Musaru Cup build, I got it done.
Yeah. And
actually, I won the damn thing.
Yeah.
So.
And I can almost guarantee you that I won't. Because I'm competing against 6 other really fantastic modelers, most of whom are way more skilled than I am. So the win is going to be finishing for me.
Well, to catch no grief from me, you just have to get it done.
Good, because that's the bar I'm going to clear.
But I know you wanted to build that kit, so
yes.
You'll do fine.
Yep, that was on the list, so they did me a solid.
It'll meet your internal standard.
Yes.
Whether it meets the external standard, we'll see.
Yeah.
But just get it done.
I hear you.
See, you don't have the. See, the Gundam had a knob I could turn that you can't. Yeah, the whole presentation thing.
Yes, that's right.
Which is really what it boiled down to.
Yep.
I think some people saw that at Nationals and were like, really? What the heck, man? Maybe not. I
Hey,
don't know.
take the win. The win is the win. Take the win. Don't
I'm
look.
taking it.
Don't look too deeply. Don't look at the gift horse in the mouth. Just take the win and move on.
Well, I'm sure we learn more than that in 2022. We just can't think of it right now.
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
So, in the coming year, across all potential topics, subject areas, genre, whatever, what are you hoping for next year, man?
Better, faster. Well, I don't want to go. I don't.
You're going to say stronger?
Yeah, I was going to say. Okay, that's another reference that Evan will never understand. But but yes, as far as my modeling, I want to get faster, faster / more efficient. Not needing to do things twice, not having done something and then go, oh, I should have done it this way. More efficient, faster, better. I think my airbrushing is getting better simply from doing it more. I've said this before. I think airbrushing is a skill that is not like riding a bike. It's something that you have to do a lot and regularly to not only get the skill, but also to keep it and keep it fresh. And if
there's a finesse part of it.
Yes. Yeah, particularly when using like the Harder and Steenbeck at very low pressure to do very, very tiny, thin work or shading work or, stuff like that. That is something that I think you get with practice and you lose with disuse. So I think that having airbrushed more this year than I had last year, I think that skill is improving slowly. It's one area where I want to keep improving. And then I want to build cleaner. And by cleaner, I don't mean no weathering. What I mean is there are modelers whose models you look at on the table and the build, no matter how it's weathered or anything, the build itself is just clean. The finish is flawless. There's no dust. There's no hairs. Now, again, I've got 6 pets and 4 people living in this house. And, outside of building a semiconductor clean room, I'm not sure that I can ever defeat that completely. But I need to at least work at it more than I do currently. I need to look at my models during the building stage with a more critical eye. And some people have said that it helps them to photograph the model.
Yeah, I can see that.
As they're doing it, because you see things in photographs that you don't look at or you don't see when you're looking directly at the model, which is counterintuitive.
Right.
That just doesn't make sense, but it's true. And I'm not sure why it's true, but it is true. And so I may start doing that more. Just simply to help myself.
Oh, I think the mirror trick works too.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah. That's a Shep Payne tip.
Yeah. Oh, God, that one goes back a long time, way before digital cameras.
That's right. It does.
So what do you want?
Well, like you, I'd like to get more efficient and faster. And I don't think it's, once I'm actually doing something at the bench, I don't think that's where my problem is. I think for me, the problem is I've got my workbench, then I've got an old, used to be our kitchen table is like 90 degrees off my workbench with all my computer stuff on it.
Yes.
Where I'm doing this right now.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to face the bench, rotate 90 degrees to the left, get on eBay, get on YouTube, and virtual model for more time than I'm actually modeling.
Yes. I was actually going to mention this as a possible subject for a future episode because I have my computer, just like you, 90 degrees from my workbench. And I, like you, spend plenty of time. I'm wondering, is it a good idea to have your computer in your hobby room? I'd love to hear what the listeners think about that. And I'd love to ask these guys who are super good, super efficient builders if any of them do have the computer or if the computer is somewhere separate.
Well, I think some of these guys in our immediate circle of friends are at a different life point than we are.
Yes, that is also true.
And that's hard to fix.
Yeah. Well, you're right. That is really hard to fix without a lot of legal trouble.
That's right. So we have to work around some different confines than maybe some other people do.
Right.
And a lot of people listening who are in the same situation as us. I mean, we get a lot of comments back about our mention of family life and extracurricular stuff as it relates to model building.
Yeah.
That we got going on, and there's more to us than this podcast and this hobby, and that's why we don't get a lot done sometimes. I've got a lot of new tools. I need to think up some projects to do on these things. I've got to make better use of my time where I'm sitting right now. I need to be facing 90 degrees the other direction more times than I'm not. And I think to do that, I've got an opportunity because, so folks know, pretty much our house is on a partial basement.
Yeah.
About 2/3, maybe 3/4 of that partial basement, about 2/3 of that partial basement is my space. It's pretty substantial. It's a lot more than most people have. It's more than I had at my old house, and you saw that workshop.
Oh yeah.
And that was nice.
Yep.
I'm going to move my workbench probably this weekend. I'm going to move it where it is. I've got some work to do down there. I need to move it anyway. But I think I'm going to rearrange things to where my workbench is against a wall. Instead of teeing off 90 degrees from my workbench, I'm going to move the computer to where I actually have to separate myself from the workbench to get to it. And I'm going to see how that goes.
I would love, this is a great experiment. I would love to, I want to see how it comes out, because I do think that there's something to this. My computer's a laptop. I can technically move it into the other room. In fact, in the summertime, I'll go out and, when I'm working from home, sit by the pool outside. So it's not that it can't be moved from my hobby room. I'm just wondering, like you, maybe should I move it out of there so it's not its normal home?
I think in the coming year, we've talked about this seminar topic I would like to do, and you'd like to see me do.
Yes. Folks, I am going to make sure he does this seminar topic. He's got a lot of information, and I think people will find it fascinating. So I'm going to push on him in the coming year to put this seminar together so that he can give it at a future nationals or other places.
Other than that, there's a lot of tools and techniques I want to learn more from going into 2023. But I think efficiency, the podcast, our podcast, and the interactions we have with the others in public and behind the scenes and at the shows has got me chomping at the bit to get to a lot of these other projects.
Yeah.
And I want to do so much, but I just can't, because I'm hamstrung by a lot of things. And I think some of those things are artificial.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say one of the places that I need to be more efficient is in my non-modeling life. Lawyers are, by their very nature, procrastinators. In fact, I used to joke that there was a course that everybody took in law school and nobody remembers it, but every lawyer got the procrastination chip installed in law school. Because I've met very few lawyers who aren't procrastinators. I am. I know I am, and it is a character flaw that I can fix. Okay, willpower to and planning and following some tips and guidelines to make yourself less of a time waster. I am going to dedicate myself to those in 2023 and see if at least some of the efficiency gained and the time saved procrastinating there can be dumped into the hobby stuff.
Like for me, you're talking about finishes this year. I'm going to have 2. Neither of those was started this year.
Yeah.
So you kind of see where I'm going with that.
Well, at least with the Kate, I am going to have started and finished that model in the same calendar year.
I'm not going to have one of those.
Yeah. Well, what I want is several of those every year.
Me too. So goad us on, folks.
Yes, absolutely. Hold us accountable.
All right. Got anything else on this topic, Dave?
No, I think that's it. I could hear your ice clinking. How's that modeling fluid?
Well, I've put a lot of water down with it, not in it, but behind it.
Right.
The Russell's Reserve 10-year. I highly recommend this. This is really good. This is like challenging my bullet.
I was going to say, how is the price point?
It's pretty similar.
Okay.
It's a little more expensive, but it's a 10-year. I think it's got a little more flavor.
Right.
It's different because it's not as spicy. It doesn't have as much rye in it as the bullet does.
Yeah.
So it's got a little different palate, but I don't know. I think it's a little smoother.
Well, I'm going to have to try. I've never had that before. I'm going to have to try that one.
It's all gone now. So I'll have an opportunity to pass one up over the other the next time I go shopping. So
there you go.
Good stuff.
There you go.
How's your Coke?
You know what? My Coke was Coke. The ABV was 0. It tasted exactly like Coke tastes, and got me through the episode. Although not quite as enjoyably as the normal modeling fluid does, but catching a little bit of a breather here. Working off a few post-Thanksgiving pounds and taking a little break's gonna help me reboot and come back strong next episode. Well, Mike, we're near the end of the show here. You got any shout-outs for anybody?
I do. I want to shout out our Patreon and PayPal contributors who make this show possible. Folks, we really appreciate the financial help we get for this show. And if you'd like to join the ranks of the folks who've done that, you can do it one of 2 ways. If you'd like to make a recurring contribution, you can go to www.patreon.com/plasticmodelmojo. And there you can get signed up for a recurring contribution from $1 on up, and Patreon will help take care of the billing for that. And it'll kind of take care of itself. If you'd like to manage your own contribution or your own recurring contribution or make a one-time contribution, you can go to www.plasticmodelmojo.com, our website, and in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll find a heart icon. Now that icon is to a PayPal Me page where you can make a one-time or recurring contribution of your own, whatever amount you like. We appreciate everything everybody's done up until this point. For example, we've recently changed recording platforms, and there's an expense associated with that. And all our financial contributors have made that pretty painless, and we've come a long way with that. And the show quality is getting better as we learn how to use it. And thanks for making that possible.
Yes, I'd like to add my thanks as well. All of you who've contributed, you do not know how much we appreciate the show of support that represents. It's certainly wonderful, and we thank you for doing that. Mike, my shout out is I'd like to shout out the men and women in Ukraine, the citizens of Ukraine. we all see from a distance what they're going through, but we're viewing it from the comfort of wherever we are, in front of our computer or in front of our TV. I cannot imagine actually going through what they're going through. And it just amazes me that all of these model companies in Ukraine not only continue to put out product, but continue to put out new product, release new product under what in essence are wartime conditions. It was driven home to me when I got this ICM kit, and I'm just amazed at the quality of it. I'm amazed at the production values of everything associated with it. If there's a Ukrainian manufacturer who makes something that you've been thinking about getting, go ahead, make your purchase, buy direct from them or buy even from a distributor, because obviously if the distributor purchased something and then it gets bought, that incentivizes the distributor to carry more stuff. So, my shout out is to these folks. I cannot imagine what it is like where they are, particularly with the current challenges in the middle of winter with power and water. So let's all keep them in our thoughts and in our prayers, and let's all support them in any and every way we can. I got one more shout out. I'd like to shout out Jim Bates and Scott Gentry. They ran the 72 and 72 over this holiday weekend and allowed us to play along in their little sandbox. So Mike and I were both able to spend some time, quality time, modeling at our bench, but at the same time interacting with other modelers all across the world. In fact, it was really neat to see Ivan Jensen on one of these StreamYard get-togethers. It was like 4:00 in the morning where he was, and he was up and at his bench. And I just had a great time. And I appreciate Scott and Jim for coming up with the idea, Scott for helping to put it all together, and both of them for allowing us to play along. It was a great time, guys.
Sure was, man. It was a blast.
Yep.
Glad it was a success. The success it was.
Yes, me too.
Well, Dave, we're getting a little long here, and it's time to wrap this up, man.
You know what they say, Mike.
So many kits.
So little time. I'll see you soon.
All right, man. You take it easy.